Hey everyone, my name is Vicky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be telling you guys a few tips that I have for landing your first software engineering internship, or really just any software engineering internship. I know that the process of landing an internship, especially your first time, can be super challenging and kind of daunting at first. So this is a topic that I love to talk about, and I'm really excited to hopefully help you guys land a job and make you feel more confident going into that process. So for some background, I am a 19-year-old software engineer, designer, content creator, and student. I'm currently a second-year student at UC Berkeley studying computer science. However, I am currently doing a gap semester to do an internship. Internship just wrapped up. I'm unemployed, not doing school, so I have a lot of free time on my hands. On top of that, I also run a web development organization at UC Berkeley that I founded last year. It was actually the first web development org at my school. And I briefly mentioned this before, but I'm also a huge fan of UI UX design, graphic design, and web design. All of that stuff is just my favorite way to let my creativity flow. Lastly, I currently run a small business where I sell clay jewelry, art prints, and stickers, and if you're looking to spend your money on something cute that'll make you smile, then go check that out. Alright, so let's start talking about some tips. Okay, so tip number 1. Practice and improve your soft skills and show personality during the interview process. There's kind of this perception of software engineers being these people who just kind of sit at their desk all day and code. And yes, a lot of your job is coding. However, in reality, most of your day isn't actually coding. Obviously, this is something that depends from job to job, but for me, a lot of my job was, taking calls, being able to explain my problems effectively, communicate what I'm working on, sometimes even having to understand business logic and how to code an application with that in mind. So all this is to say that your job isn't all just coding. So when you look at it in the context of the interview, the company is not only looking for someone who is technically strong, they're also looking for someone who, on top of technical skills, has a good personality, a good attitude, a good passion, and dedication to learning. And learning is a really, really big thing to keep in mind here. As an intern especially, you're not expected to know everything that your role entails. Yes, there is a baseline of knowledge that you should have, but you're an intern. The point of an internship is to learn. When it comes to an interview, if you don't know something, that's totally fine. Just be honest and show them that you have a commitment to learning something and being able to contribute as much as you can. One philosophy that my organization goes by when we do recruiting for new members is that you can teach technical skills to anyone. However, what you can't teach is personality and how to have a good attitude and commitment towards contributing something. So when it comes to deciding new members, we always look for people who just give off a good energy and show that they're genuinely excited and passionate about what they're talking about and just excited to join our organization. A lot of times, it doesn't come down to technical skill, because I think it's really, really valuable to have someone on your team that is just really easy to talk to, fun to work with, and is a good communicator. So those are things that are really important to keep in mind. So my second tip is to work on side projects, and this is probably one of the most important tips and probably something that you've heard 100 times over, but let me explain. So when I was applying to my first internship, I was very scared. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I had previously done a side project that related to the role that I was applying for, which was front-end engineering. And during my interviews, I was able to bring up a lot of examples of the work that I did at the side project to illustrate my knowledge and my experience with that technology. Side projects not only give you a lot to talk about during your interviews, but it also shows them that, you're not just saying you're interested in this thing, you're actually dedicated to going out on your own and doing something with it and gaining experience outside of school and what people are telling you to do. Intrinsic motivation is a huge thing that people look for, and it's a really, really good trait to have. So having a side project on your resume shows them that you're driven, you're dedicated, and you want to learn about this thing genuinely. Getting your hands on something is way more effective than just listening to lectures or watching YouTube videos about a certain subject. So my number 3 tip relates to Leetcode. So Leetcode, HackerRank, all of these websites are basically places where you can go through a bunch of coding questions, write code for it, and then they'll run tests on it and see if your code solved the problem that they gave to you. Leetcode is a great way to hone in your technical skills. A lot of coding is problem solving, so I definitely recommend you do go on Leetcode. But when it comes to Leetcode, you have to do it with intention. I think a lot of people just kind of go through it just to go through it and get all the problems done. At the end of the day, it's really just a waste of time if you're not picking up any knowledge and not improving your problem solving skills. So the way that I did Leetcode is that I would first tackle an easy problem, and if in some case I couldn't get the answer or I had to search up the answer, I would always take notes on it to figure out exactly what I didn't understand, because the only way that you can really improve is to figure out what you don't have a grasp on and then go in on those skills and really, really perfect them. Then from there on out, you can use that skill that you just learned to solve future problems. Don't spend too long on one problem and don't beat yourself up for it. Trust that, there is a process, and the more questions you do, the better you'll get at these problems down the line. Now we're moving on to tip number 4. So this next tip relates to networking, which is a big buzzword that people like to use. However, I do think it's really important to be able to talk to people people who have worked in industry. A very common way to do this is to just go on LinkedIn and look for people who maybe went to your school and are now working in industry or in software engineering. More often than not, if you shoot them a message and ask them some questions, they'll be more than willing to hop on a call with you, answer any questions that you have. I think this is a really, really powerful way of getting to know whether or not you even like software engineering. And also, if you build a strong enough connection with this person, you can maybe get a referral from them down the line for the company that they're working at. I would like to know, do not open the communication by asking for a referral. That's something that, they have to kind of trust you before you get to that step, if that makes sense. But I do think it's really valuable to build industry connections so that when you have questions about something, when you want to figure out more about what a field is like, you have someone to ask, someone who will be honest with you. It's also really just fun to listen to people's stories because people love telling stories about the work that they do, and it's just a fun time for both of you guys. So I think we're on tip number 5 now. The second to last tip is to run your resume through an ATS. ATS is just A, T, and then S. Basically, a lot of big companies get a ton of resumes. No one's gonna sit around there and read all like 1,000 resumes that come through. So basically what they do is they use something called an ATS, and basically it'll automatically kind of read the resumes and like get keywords from it and try to figure out like your skills. I don't really know exactly what it does, but that's what I think it does. You can Google it. Google is your best friend. So it's really important that when you're making your resume, you're formatting it in a way where the ATS reader can actually pick up on the words in it. For example, don't send your resume as a PNG or a photo because there's no way to like lift the text up from there. The recommended formats are either like Microsoft Word docs or PDFs. I think this is important to know because, if someone was just reading an image, they could figure it out, but when it goes through machine, you really have to comply with those standards. I can link my resume template down in the description. It's not super standard, but after running it through some ATS simulation thing, it seems like you can pick up some of the keywords, and I think for me personally, like having good design was also important to me on my resume, so just a small thing to keep in mind. Last but not least, I have tip number 6, which is probably the most important tip, even though I've already said that, I think. In the end, recruiting season is kind of just a numbers game, which is upsetting, but because of the sheer amount of roles that are open and the sheer amount of people that want software engineering internships, it's pretty competitive. And when it comes to applying, you see a job posting that you like, if you notice that you don't fit the posting 100%, like let's say they say you have to know like some technology that you're not super familiar with, don't be discouraged. Like I said earlier, internships are also to learn. When it comes to applying to internships, don't be afraid just because you don't fit the posting 100%. The way I did it is I saw a role that I thought was interesting at a cool company that I liked, and I just sent in my application, and there's really no harm to it. Of course, like the more applications you do, the more time it takes. However, I don't think that you should sell yourself short. I personally applied to approximately 150 internships for my first like recruiting season, and I was able to get like emails back from like 15. So like 10% of them decided to send me the first round. Literally 2 of them decided to make an offer. That's just to illustrate how much of a numbers game it is. The more applications that you send in, the higher of a chance that you'll land an internship. And that's just kind of the reality. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, networking is also super powerful, and your chances of getting in with a referral are a little bit higher than just cold applying. When it comes to cold applying for places, don't be afraid, just do it and see what happens, right? So yeah, so hopefully you guys found some value out of those tips that I have. These tips are a little bit more general. If you want me to talk more about the interview process and how to do well in those, then I can go ahead and make another video. Feel free to drop any comments or questions that you have down below. I would love to answer them and get back to you guys, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye everyone. I refilmed this video like 6 times, so alright. Good luck. I believe in you. Right. Also, my socials are linked down below, such as Instagram, TikTok, I think, and LinkedIn. So please feel free to follow me there, and also I respond to messages, so feel free to ask me any questions there. Alright, that's actually all.